Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Discussion Group. The ambition for this program is to have a thoughtful conversation on a variety of subjects. Today's topic is music. We'll be discussing performing music and exploring why humans evolved with musical abilities. Today, our panelist is Karen. She's a guitarist. Stacy likes to play piano. And Casey, you're a singer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's dive right into this. You play guitar. When did you start playing, and what drew you to it?
I do. I started playing when I was 13 years old. I grew up in a household that was musical with 5 older brothers and sisters. And I heard the Beatles, and I would sit in front of the mirror and pretend to play the guitar, and my parents walked by and were like, "That's pathetic," and got me a guitar for Christmas.
Oh.
So they didn't say that was pathetic. They just had that look on their face like, she's just pretending to do it. So I started then, and I have been playing ever since.
And is it a passion for you, I imagine?
It is, very much so.
Very
Every day I try to play, and it always brings joy.
Very good.
And I love being in bands with other people, and also teaching. I love to share the knowledge as well.
Very good. Casey, when did you start singing?
Oh, I don't know. I remember I had a Fisher-Price record player. Did anyone have one of those?
Yeah.
You'd pop up the center and play the 45s or the...
Yes.
I remember
It was
this.
beige,
Yes,
right?
it was beige and brown.
Yeah.
And a little orange on
Yep.
the
We
side.
have one now. Can the stage crew bring one? No, we don't have one.
Well, my parents had one, and I always played with it, so they got me one, and I listened to over and over again the Robin Hood soundtrack, and then I had a record. It was Splish Splash, I Was Taking a Bath, but Bruce Springsteen sang it.
Get out.
And then on the B-side was Santa Claus Is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen,
Right.
and I was just like, that was my game. I was like, yes. So I would just sing. I would just be in my room. I'd lock myself in my room and play the record over and over and over and sing all the songs, and I think I just, innately loved it, so I just
Enjoy.
kept going with it. And you grow up and there's school chorus, and you do outside plays and things like that, and eventually I ended up in a band, and
Very
that was
nice.
that.
Very cool.
Nice.
What about you? You like to play piano? When did you start playing piano?
I want to say I was in like 3rd grade, so what is that, 9? We
Yeah.
had a piano, and conveniently enough, we had a neighbor that taught piano, so I could just walk myself across the street for my piano lessons.
Oh, that is
And
convenient.
I did that for like 13 years.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
I play a little piano, very rudimentary, but there's something very therapeutic. Is it about, like, if I'm having a bad day and I'm like, oh, you know what, I just need to unwind I'll go to the piano, and I can read some basic music and chords, and I'll have fun with it and learn songs. But there's just something. After you start playing for about 10 minutes, I've forgotten whatever was bothering me, and it's just, I imagine it's the same for you guys.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about playing live at an establishment or a bar, a gig, as it's called. That's a little different story. It's one thing to play at home for yourself or for family members, but it's got to take a lot of, confidence and a little nerve to the first time go play a gig. Now, Casey, you have a guitarist friend, Jeff, and
Yes.
you guys play out a lot.
Yes.
Do you remember when you had your first gig and how you felt?
I do. It wasn't with Jeff. I was like 20 years old,
Yeah.
and I worked in a restaurant, and one of the head chefs in back had a band, and I was kind of talking crap about the people that were playing at the restaurant. It was a club, but I was like, nah, I can do that. Just a kid being like, I can do that. I don't know why she can do it. I can get up there. I could do it just fine. So I was challenged by him to come try out in their band and do that. And that was actually the first time I ever sang on a microphone in that sort of setting at their house, in this space.
Yeah.
And then the first gig was with them, and it's almost like you black out. It's an out-of-body experience. That's how I would, and I felt like that for numerous times when I first did it, because it was so scary, leading up to it. But once you're there, you feel this sense of weird calmness, and you kind of just go for it. But you also see yourself above yourself.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like dream. Like.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a good place to be because you still have enough nerves that you are not overconfident to think that you can do things you can't. So it kind of keeps you in line at the same time.
Nice. Do you remember your first gig?
I do. My first gig was actually in high school at a performance art night. And a few of us just said, let's start a band it was senior year. So we said, let's do this. It would be a good way to go out of high school. And I remember the first, it's on a big stage. It was actually East Providence High School. That's where I went to high school. And the audience, it was packed. And I just didn't expect that. You know, when you play in your room for years and maybe you picture an audience and what that would be like, it was very different to actually see all of the people. But it was wonderful because once the drums started playing, the thought of, yes, this is a band. This is my band. We're playing together. There's something about that being in it together and the community of that.
It's camaraderie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. One of the funny things that happened, though, is it was a 2-night showcase. So after the first night, we got to look at the videotape of us playing, and it was pretty hilarious. I was standing way in back, right near the amp, and it's this big stage. And all I'm doing is I'm like this, and I'm just going, and that's all. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. So the next night I got more out in front and, you know, got a little more of a rock and roll stance because I think it's easy. I don't know if it's the same for you where when you first start playing especially, you don't really think about what you look like. And maybe that's the benefit of kind of seeing yourself above, like a little kind of seeing you're in it and then you're also watching yourself. So that's a good way to be because it makes you mindful of you know what you have for stage moves, and while also making sure that you're playing the right notes and everything like that. So.
Over time, each of you have like a routine when you know you're going to perform that night to get you in sort of the mode and the right mindset? Like, I have a coffee, or I always go early, or is there like a routine that you guys do? To put you in a good place. Some people might not.
I always get really nervous still. It never fails. I always get just like my stomach tenses up and I don't eat much, which isn't probably the best way to go about things, but I get really nervous, so I don't really eat. But I do, if I can, which usually I can, I plan my whole day to do nothing except
to get you in the zone. To
take my time, take a shower, get dressed, do what I want to do, warm up my voice.
Nice. What about you?
Pretty similar. I try to make sure I don't have anything that day. One thing I will do sometimes is if I do have a lesson plan that day, I will do that because I feel like it grounds me actually teaching.
Yeah.
And then getting up and playing. So I like to try to do something that grounds me a little bit so that I'm not too overwhelmed by the gig or the new song that we have to play that I'm not sure if I feel comfortable with.
Right.
So kind of just making sure I'm in the moment when I'm playing. But as far as beforehand, I try to eat a little bit, couple of hours before. Mm-hmm. And I usually won't drink. I'll have tea or something, and then afterwards I'll have a beer or something.
Just so you have enough your constitution is...
Exactly. I've played gigs before where I didn't eat, and there's nothing worse than being up there and you feel like you're about to pass out. So I try to, you learn, I think, the more that you play, the things that work for you. I have, in one of my bands, the drummer, he has to take a nap. He has to eat a big meal and take a nap, and we had gone on tour about 6 years ago, and he would nap in the van, and everybody would be like, "Where did he go?" And he must be napping.
But if that's his thing,
exactly, and he was great. It worked for him, So I think different people have different ways.
You learn over the years what works better for you. So, take little nibbles. That's what I do now. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
I have a drink beforehand and during and after. So.
It makes you play better, sing better. Yeah.
Well,
it takes the edge off. It takes the edge of the nerves off.
Exactly. It takes the edge off. You feel, I don't know if it centers me, but it, It
Yeah.
takes like the wheel. It slows the wheel down.
Right.
I think that's what it is. It's instead of being all freaked out,
Right.
you're just like, this is gonna be
I can
fun.
understand
We're gonna
that.
have fun. This is good.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's one thing if I play piano at home and I miss a note, family members, you missed the note there. Or sometimes I get even self-conscious at home. So when you're out and you're performing, I've played worse when I know someone's listening.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to imagine it's a big hurdle to first get over that. Like, I guess if you're with many other musicians on stage, if you miss a note, it's not going to be that noticeable. To them it will be, but probably not to the audience. But does it just over time experience so many gigs, it gets a little better? Is that how it works?
I think it can depend. I play bass as well as guitar, and last weekend I played a Sunday day gig. It was a fundraiser with one of my bands, a band called This Modern Bridge, and it was the band that I play bass in, and it was my first time ever playing bass live. And I was nervous, and I don't play with a pick, I play with my fingers. I could actually see my fingers shaking.
Yeah.
So even though I've been playing well over 35 years, that never goes away depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to settle right in, and usually I would play like 4 notes.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I'm like, okay, I'm shaking. I know you don't want to try to play 4 notes, or it's going to be like you're tumbling over them. So I just played the 1 note and sustained it and hung back like it was what I meant to do. Let the guitarist have some spotlight, and then just did the 1 note again, and then once I felt myself calm down, then I went back in.
Yeah.
So actually made it work so that it looked like what was meant to happen. And I think that's a real key when you get nervous, is to just be in it and just turn it into something that seems natural.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we have a clip of Casey and Jeff. You recently were playing a gig at the Galactic Theater in Warren, and I was there that night, so they're playing out live. Let's take a look at this clip. Well, there we go. That was good. Nice night. Very nice.
Thank you, Seth.
And that was Jeff on guitar and background vocals. That was very good. It's kind of so what would you say you are? A soul sort of, a soul singer in a sense, a little rhythm and soul?
Yeah, I'd say R&B, soul, jazz. Jazz has a big influence on the way I form sounds, I guess is the best way to describe it.
It's very nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
Very good. We also have a clip with you, and you have a band called Reindeer that you're
Yes.
in. And then, that was something I wanted to talk about. Like, all right, so you guys want to go out and do gigs. It's like getting your name out there and then having material to show various parties. Like, this is us. This is what we do. So, like the videos that you and Reindeer did, what were those for? What was the purpose of it? Just exposure, or?
It was partly exposure, but a lot of it was for fun. We had all known each other for years, had been playing together for years, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool to do a video? And a couple of the members had been in bands in the 90s and were signed to record labels and were touring.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I had never had the video experience. It's like, sure, we'll do that. And we shot all of the videos on an iPhone. We had a friend who shot the videos, and then 2 of the members of the band just did the editing of the videos and put them together. So
Well, it looked like you were having fun.
it was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
and that's the thing I've heard, like for like MTV musicians, some of them say after a while, oh, it gets a little tiring to do the videos because you always have to top some new creativity. But I feel like the one we're going to see, yours today, it was just sort of like you guys had fun that day, and we're just going to go out and have fun, and you can tell in the video. But then I guess if you're trying to get a gig at a certain establishment, and they want to know, well, what type of music you play, you send them the link to the video.
Absolutely. And it seems like, and I don't know if you find this as well, with Instagram and Facebook and everything, it seems like that's more of a way of getting gigs. Back in the old days, as I like to call it, the 90s, it was you go to the club or you know someone whose band's playing, and they say, oh, our band's playing, come open up for us. Where now it really seems like you have to have either music on Spotify or it used to be a CD not long ago. You hand them a CD, they're like, oh no, we don't have a CD player. So it's amazing how when the technology changes, the approach also can change as well. And a lot of places seem to want to see video a little bit.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look. This one's called Blue and White. I like this one. It reminded me a little bit of the Go-Go's, sort of frolicking on the. I enjoyed it. Let's take a look.
That was the idea of it.
Okay. I was
on the beach sort of feel. Yeah.
I like the sense of it. Let's take a look.
What shall we wear tonight? No need to bother. What shall we wear tonight? No trouble at all. Blue and white stripes for you. Blue and white stripes for me. A little red lipstick, cigarette pants, 21 stripes falling overboard. There's no need to think at all, just go with me. We can look forward and backward too. Oh, blue and white stripes for you. Blue and white stripes for me. A little red lipstick, cigarette pants, 21 stripes falling overboard.
Very nice. That was good. Yeah, it has that Go-Go's feel. That was really good. I'm guessing Joe is the drummer, and he wasn't in the video.
That's correct. Okay. He wasn't there that day, so we wrote a little note mentioning that we didn't know where he was. Where is he?
Where the heck is Joe? I like that. Nice. Let's go into something. Now that we've talked about gigs, I wanted to kind of go into music in general. And you guys all know me. I like to get deep and philosophical on things. Yeah. So I wanted to use this show as also an opportunity to talk about human beings, our musical ability. I'm a guy of science, and I feel like if something evolved and we're using it today, it proved useful. Otherwise, it would have died out. And that's sort of, I've always liked, well, why music? Why music with us? I mean, you could take a person on one side of the planet and hear them sing, and maybe you don't understand the language, but you get a sense of the feeling of what's going on and what they're talking about. And it's sort of universal in that sense. I do have another clip that we can watch. It's a clip by Howard Goodall. It aired in the UK. I wish it had aired here. He's an English composer. It's called How Music Works. And he talks about how our universal connection as human beings to it. And so let's take a look at that one, and let's talk about this a little bit. I have some thoughts on it, and I'm curious to see what you guys think too. All right, let's take a look.
What is it then about a good melody that makes it so effective?
At first hearing, all the world's many musical systems, from Africa to Indonesia, from the Andes to the Urals, do indeed sound very different from each other. But actually, some melodic principles are universal and hold true for every culture on Earth.
Listen to these 5 songs from around the world. They all share something simple and profound.
Alunde, 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 aluya. Alunde, 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 aluya.
让我来将你摘下，送给别人家。茉莉花呀，茉莉花。
Deep river, my home is over Jordan.
गाइए गणपति जगवंदना गाइए गणपति जगवंदना
I am sailing home again, across the sea.
These songs are all based on 5 notes. What's more, they all use the same 5 notes. That's right, every music system in the world shares these 5 notes in common. Indeed, they're so fundamental to every note composed or performed anywhere on the planet that it seems, like our instinct for language, that they were pre-installed in us when we were born. These 5 notes are a human genetic inheritance, like the fingers on our hands. In the West, we call tunes made from these 5 notes pentatonic, after the ancient Greek word for 5, pentas. These are they.
It's easy to find the pentatonic notes on a piano keyboard because they're the black notes. An enormous number of popular tunes throughout history have been based on a pentatonic shape, especially the sing-along anthems, from Auld Lang Syne to Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and Mull of Kintyre.
Melody is music's most powerful tool when it comes to touching our emotions. Our mothers sing lullabies to us when we're infants, and tests have shown that we can even, as babies, recognize tunes we heard in the womb. Tunes can act as a bridge between cultures when language fails us. People can feel totally wrapped up in operas and musicals whose text they don't understand or don't remember, because the melodies somehow convey the story and the feelings on their own. Tunes can inspire patriotism, hope and redemption, and they lie at the heart of most of the world's faiths. They can express love, loss and longing.
Very nice. It's a good program. If you can, it's on YouTube, so it's out there. It's called How Music Works. So I wanted to talk about this, why human beings evolved a musical ability. And before the show, I let you guys peruse an article from The Economist from some years back called Why Music, and it explored this. And it came up with a few different hypotheses. The most common one was it's borrowed for love. It evolved because of love and mating, just like the birds sing to attract a mate and so forth. And that kind of made sense a little bit. How many songs are usually romance lyrics, love lyrics. You think of the crooner, like from the past, like Frank Sinatra attracting the young girls, and I thought, okay, that kind of makes sense a little bit. The other hypothesis was that it evolved out of a sense of binding a community. And when language came to be keeping a community together, you can think of national anthems. It's a form of our sort of solidarity together. Or a sense of community in we're working class, and we kind of are geared towards this working class music. We're together, we're camaraderie, there's comrades, and so forth. So that was another hypothesis. And then the other one was it was a happy accident out of that sprung out of language. And then there's a fourth, I guess it could be all three. But I don't know, you guys took a look at the article. What are your thoughts? Why did humans take to music? What do you think it is about us and music and why it came to be?
The rhythm of the universe. I think it's just a part of our daily rhythm. I think it's everywhere. We're surrounded by it. There's no way we could get around it. I don't think it's an accident at all. If you listen to the trees and blowing in the wind and acorns dropping in the middle of the woods while that's happening, and a rustle over here, and everything is music. I think everything is music. So I think we're surrounded by it, and innately we want to contribute to it. And I think maybe it's a happy accident that if you're talented in it, you get more mates than others. But which is, I think that goes for any talent, though. I think someone's really good at something, it's attractive. It's so it could be you have
you see their passion.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something that not many other people can do, that someone else can do really well, that's fascinating and provides this very attractive quality that maybe wouldn't be there if they didn't have that.
There's other forms of music, though. There's symphony music and movies. And another interesting thing about the article was, and it seems correct, you go back 100 years or so ago, and most people didn't have means to music every day. Someone in the family had to play the guitar, the violin, unless you were well-to-do and you could go to the symphony and you lived in a major metropolitan area like Paris, London, New York. So, for a long time in human history, you had to rely on sort of someone learning it. One thing that I thought was interesting is I read how rhythm came about because we evolved to walk on 2 feet. And right there's a rhythm. And so you look at the other primates, and they're sort of on all fours a little bit. They're not singing in the trees, but that maybe one article I read was rhythm came from that. And another kind of fascinating thing about it was, if you hear a beat, psychologists say over time you will naturally start to put it in a 2/2 or 4/4 time, even though it's the same. And that kind of thing fascinates me. It's like we want to organize things. We want to put a rhythm to something. And you're right, it's just something deep inside us.
Math.
But it's also like your heartbeat, though. Like,
right.
That's
Right.
like the very center of us.
Exactly.
And you're in the womb, and you can hear your
you
mother's
hear your
heartbeat.
mother's
Exactly, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we not sing to our children when they're babies, or I think who's the first person that made up a lullaby? We'll never know that. But
Right.
who said it had to have words? Maybe when there weren't words or an official language, it was you just made these noises, right? That's what all language is. Eventually, broken down, it's noises put together in either a very nice way or a not nice way. And whether it's physically appealing or just sounds really nice, and it evokes different emotions out of you.
That's a really good point, because even if you listen to other languages, if you don't know what they're saying, a lot of times there's a cadence, such as if someone's asking a question, and if it's in another language, there's it's a similarity, like da-da-da-da-da. Right? And music, in a way, if you think about it. So in that way, language and music, there's a little bit of a similarity about the cadence of language, and music as a language, music as a universal language. The fact that anywhere in the world, if someone can read music, no matter what language you speak,
Right. Yeah,
you can
Yep.
play and speak with other people in that way.
They've done studies where I think as human beings, we're searching to organize things, and we're searching for emotion from it. But they've done studies where scales, you put a series of notes, and I guess this is where a hook comes in a song. Your brain will release dopamine. It's a joy. It's like sugar, and it's just fascinating. Why is that though? Why did this evolve to where that maybe because if you're better communicating, you can understand another party better, and then that enhanced our survival. Well, I understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from, but you look at hooks in songs, and I think I saw something where they took like 10 songs and they played the hooks, and they were like the same 3-4 notes, and it was ridiculous. But they just put them in different orders.
Yeah.
And
That's most of pop music.
Yeah.
That's why I play a little guitar, not like you do, but all I do is write 3-chord, 4-chord songs. I mean, that's really all I can do. But you can make something out of it because you can change your voice tonally. You can change what rhythm it's going in, and it can sound like a totally different song. But
Right.
It's not. It's the same order. It's D, C, G. Those are pretty basic, right?
And if you add a capo to that, you're all
right.
set.
Oh, then we're all, yep, you're up
The
a
capo
harmonic
being
level.
on a guitar, it's something that changes the key of the guitar. There are certain artists, a lot of my students like Taylor Swift, and I wasn't very familiar with her until I started teaching, and I noticed her formula of playing 3 chords, but she would move a capo and change the way she was
sounds
singing,
totally different.
and so they sound there. It gives it a style, but it also sounds different, so it doesn't sound like the same song every time.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
endless possibilities.
Yeah.
it is. You think about rhythm, and I was looking at something about syncopation, I think if I'm pronouncing that correct, where the sort of ragtime artists at the turn of the century were lagging behind the beat, and it gave it such a lovely sort of mood, like, we're just kind of, and then you go to someplace like Cuba, where that sort of Latin music, they're like a half beat ahead of it, They're like anticipating it, and it's just hot and it's fiery, and it could be the same song, but the style of putting the beat together, it's just fascinating. And
Well, it's like this is where I wish Jeff had been able to come because he could explain
Jeff,
it better.
the guitarist that she sings with.
Better than I, but it's James Brown changed the rhythm of everything because the drummer would start on 1. You know what I'm talking about.
Right,
So
yes.
instead of hitting on the 4, you're immediately hitting on the 1, so you get that pop, like that quick, funk, soul, which makes you move, which makes your foot tap, which makes you keep going. So it depends where you're hitting on the beats too. That changes.
Absolutely. An instant way into that, which anybody can do, is if you're counting if you're playing in 4/4 time, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you double that, it becomes 8 notes. The 1, 2, 3, 4 is quarter notes. You double that, it becomes 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. What can make something instantly syncopated is if you put the beat on an and. So here I am doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm going to change it up to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And you take it, and then if you take that where a step further, where you're doing it with doing the 1 where there was also a beat on the and after the 4. It sounds a little mathematical,
Right.
but that's the way. If you listen to music that really has that syncopation, it's an easy way of thinking about that. Of course, there's a lot more detailed ways of thinking about it with the cross rhythms and all different things, but that's an instant way in.
And it's interesting how when you look at other cultures and you borrow from it, how wonderful even more it gets. It's just like, wow, okay, you add that with what we're doing, and you can create something sort of totally new, and it just keeps taking off. It's like the more you're out there listening to other cultures' music, the more you can take it in and add it to what we're doing, and it's just
Absolutely.
again, it's like that sugar feeling. It's but
pleasing to the ears.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you get this way when you sit down to a piano, even when outside of all that, just if you're just playing around on the guitar or the piano and you just want to play notes, do you find like you'll start playing something and you'll just make something up, and there's just joy to what would go with this, and you want to find that pattern. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get stuck on one thing, and I'll just do it over and over and over. And that's where I get stuck, because I don't know where to go next. I don't know all the notes, but I do know that I like this one how it sounds. And I know if I put my pinky like this, it sounds even better. So yeah,
Nice.
just kind of obsess over the good feeling you get from certain sounds. But that's, I think, an opinion as well, because I can't listen to whatever the screaming hardcore metal and like I can't. That's not pleasing to me. It's more of like, oh my God, make it stop now.
It's reaching somebody, and
Yes.
for various reasons,
But
we all
people,
have our.
Some people are like, oh, that's fine. That's it. I love it. That's what I listen to on the drive to work in the morning.
Okay. What do you listen to?
So I actually have a funny story. I teach group exercise classes, so I always need playlists.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's very interesting, the wide variety of music that people like. I tend to go to 80s music because it's all clean.
Yep.
But it's so upbeat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, to me, that's what gets me going. But then like I played classic rock the other day, and this woman's like, I loved this playlist. It was fantastic. And the biggest compliment for me is when I put together a playlist and people are singing along during class, because I'm distracting them from what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really kind of neat to see that and try to gauge what people like. But like, to your point, there's the lady who's in her late 70s that comes to my class, and she loves my hairband playlist.
See, you never know.
So you just don't know. Like, you don't know what people are going to gravitate to. It's
Right.
just really funny.
One thought I want to close with is back to science. So, music and who we are as human beings, it's just fascinating. But when the Voyager spacecraft were launched into space, follow me here, there was a golden phonograph record placed on each one.
I know that, yes.
And they placed songs from the Earth. Some of them were whale music, humpback whales, Blind Willie Johnson, and Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. And I was listening to scientist Carl Sagan talking about it once, and he said, essentially the Voyager spacecraft will sail on through space forever. There's nothing, wearing them down. Space is virtually empty. If they're found by some extraterrestrial intelligence that can take a look at it, fine, but probably they'll just float forever. And he says they could float on for 5 billion years. And he says, think about that. 5 billion years from now, our sun will turn into a red giant and swallow up Mercury, Venus, and probably the Earth as well. And we'll be gone. The Earth will be gone 5 billion years from now. But way out there in space will be this golden phonograph record, and Chuck Berry will play on. So, and Saturday Night Live once did a sketch on this years ago where NASA got, or something like that, they got a signal from the aliens in space, and they're like, oh, they found our Voyager. What's the message? What's the message? And it was like, send more Chuck Berry. Well, that's a good place to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for being on the program.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching. We hope you join us next time when our guest will be singer Rick Astley. Cheers.
I had that bit on the first keyboard I ever had. That music, not him singing it, but that music, and I made up totally different lyrics to it with a friend of mine. We were doing like the cabaret stuff, and it was about maids taking out garbage, about cleaning up after people. We're like forever and ever we clean the